70 years covering Western North Carolina, but this year is when it mattered most.
You want to cry. It's like, what do you do? Where do you go?
This can be replaced, but lives can't.
You can see this is going to be a very, very, very long recovery.
News 13, right here with you in the months since Helene, holding leaders accountable.
What is the status on FEMA bringing trailers to our community?
Tracing the long journey to recovery.
I don't know what we're going to do.
Finding the moments of light.
People have just been, I said, if one thing that we have learned, that there's still good people in the world.
The people of Western North Carolina. News 13's mission for the last 70 years and the next 70 to come is always to serve you. I'm Patrick Hushin, and little did we know our 70th anniversary would include a natural disaster that touched every corner of our mountains. Helene took lives, destroyed homes, roads, and businesses, but not our spirit. Over the next hour, we'll map out our routes and have a conversation with our Skywatch weather team. Weather is the #1 reason many of you stay connected with us. And we're going to be answering what makes forecasting in Western North Carolina uniquely challenging. News 13 has put the spotlight on thousands of stories over the years. We're going to be highlighting some of the most impactful. And finally, the people who keep WLOS humming along. Faces you know and trust on top of the dedicated folks behind the scenes. 2024 will go down as an important year for WLOS between Hurricane Helene and the station's 70th anniversary. Here's my evening co-anchor, Tammy Watford, with how News 13 came to be.
If you're a native Western North Carolinian, the program you're about to see will be somewhat of a poignant trip back in time.
The robber walked into the store with what appeared to be a handgun and approached the clerk, Mrs. N.B. Matthews, and told her to give him all the money in the cash register. Well, she said if that's the way it's going to be.
For 70 years, WLOS has been documenting the most memorable moments right here in Western North Carolina.
One new area to be included in Asheville's grant application is the Lexington Street area.
From chasing news around the world.
In Moscow's Red Square.
When 1,800 North Carolina Marines were sent to Cuba, Dateline 13 News reporter Lyle West felt it his responsibility to cover the story.
This is a News 13 weather bulletin.
To weathering the blizzard of '93.
And this is what you're waking up to this morning, a monstrous winter storm.
This is News 13 at 6.
News 13's history.
The Dateline 13 News Morning Report with Cherie Blakemore and Bill Norwood
has been full of unforgettable personalities.
To make a winning sports team.
All that happening over the course of more than 25,000 days of broadcasting.
The updaters constantly update news.
When the station first went on the air, gas was 22 cents a gallon, a movie ticket was 70 cents, and a home was $10,000.
Good afternoon. I'm Charles Perez. We begin this noon with breaking news about a major step forward for the I-26 connector.
And News 13 continues to carry on with some faces that are new and others that have been around for decades.
It's trophy time in high school sports.
All pushing WLOS towards a bright future.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you for joining us. Make sure you have a great day and check out our website.
Thank you, Tammy. Part of our service to you is, of course, telling stories. And in the days, weeks, and months since Helene, we've tried to amplify the voices of as many people as possible. We wish we could share them all, of course, but we want to know, and we want you to know, that we take care in spotlighting your triumphs, your setbacks, and your tragedies. Now, one of the most heart-wrenching stories to come out of Helene is the Craigtown community of Fairview. 11 of the 13 who died were from one family, a family absolutely gutted. All of their history wiped away in significant flooding and landslides. News 13's Jennifer Emmert shares the memories of those lost.
The rumble of heavy equipment.
Yeah, every day.
Pierce says this once quiet, close-knit mountain community.
Everything happened so fast.
Firefighter Shane Harris was on duty, his wife home, his dad in his truck in Shane's driveway when the earth shifted.
The first, second, and third wave of all this hit my truck.
It took his truck all the way down to where you see this debris piles.
I'm blessed to be here, but it's not about me.
Tough to relive. Shane's house torn apart, his wife recovering. Both wanted to talk about family unable to make it out.
I had 3 uncles and 3 aunts that were taken in this awful storm.
Ronnie and Sandy Craig, Jimmy and Lois Souther, Freddie and Terry Pack, Dan and Evelyn Wright, and Angie Craig were among the family lost. Dan Wright, a well-known brick mason, had a hand in crafting Biltmore's gates.
Most of the houses that you see around here has a little bit of his work in it.
His wife, Evelyn,
she babysat. She babysat my niece and my boys.
Those of us that are left, we still have each other. And that's what we're relying on right now.
And this tight-knit community.
My family here is going to need help for a long time. People that lost lives and homes and have to completely start over again. But I know this family will pick themselves up by their bootstraps and they'll get it done.
I don't know if people can understand what goodness can come out of this, but there's a purpose behind it. And I just want to get that message out for people to pray for us.
All right, thank you, Jen. Our thoughts are with the Craig family and all of the storm victims. The cleanup process will be one measured in years. But if you'd like to help, we have an option for you. Check this out. News 13 partners with the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina. Pull out your phone and scan that QR code right there on your screen. That'll take you to the page where you can donate to the foundation. The foundation provides grants to nonprofits helping with relief and long-term recovery efforts here in Western North Carolina. They serve the 18 counties of this part of the state, including the Qualla boundary. This is only the beginning of our celebration of 70 years here at WLOS. Remember this story from more than 30 years ago. It's the snow machine that just would not stop. But first, we're in conversation with our Skywatch weather team, Jason, Megan, and Karen, explaining what makes Western North Carolina's weather unique. Welcome back. News 13 is home to Skywatch weather. In this wonderful land of sky, we see all four seasons: snow, wind, rain, and plenty of sunshine as well. Our meteorologists are here to help you weather it all, and here they are in conversation.
70 years, what a long stretch, right? 7 decades, and I'm sitting here with meteorologist Megan Danahay and Karen Wynn, and between us, each of us actually has more than 25 years experience in the business. So
we're old timers.
Yeah, but can
and
you,
a lot has changed just in our 25.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine 70 years ago?
No. Mind blowing.
It's hard.
I do remember the days when we had the weather hotline that we had to faithfully update every shift.
That's right. You had to call in and get the forecast. I think the number ended in like 1313. I can't remember if it was 651 1313.
These are the things that we store in our brain. Is that old weather line number for
the
sure.
old weather line and the radio.
Yeah. Right. I remember, and this is not here, but previous stations I worked at, actually calling the DJ up and saying, "Hi, it's me, Karen, ready to record the forecast." And he would always want to have a little conversation here and there. And it was fun. It was not quick, though, not efficient, but fun.
Yeah.
I remember in severe weather nights also at another market where, we would be under the gun for the whole night, and I would try and get a little bit of sleep on a cot near the dot matrix printer.
Yes.
Because if a warning came in, it would send that thing off, and you remember how loud those were.
It's like a wheel, and it would
and
just
you
like
had this, and paper just came out of it into rolls.
And you ripped it off and had the
They made a horrible screeching
all
sound.
black and white. Well, I mean, some of the big names: Bob Caldwell, Ken Bostic. We had Mike Bettis. We also had Bill Norwood. All of those legends really here at WLOS. I mean, they've seen the transitions too. And I can't imagine 50, 60 plus years ago trying to forecast a winter storm with very little data.
Oh, very little. I mean, we can hardly do it now. Well, we're much better now, but it is very difficult. And we do have a lot more data now.
Yeah, models.
Yeah.
And we do have social media where we're getting reports and observations from so many more folks, and that does help.
Yeah, there was no Facebook or Twitter or whatever when we started this. I mean, now it's a great avenue to get information out.
I was just going to say, it's amazing that now we can get so much information out so quickly. Yeah. Obviously, with Helene, that was a glaring issue without having cell data. But when we were on air or before the storm on social media, putting all that information out, I think it was really helpful. And that's such a different part of our job now.
Yeah, and there's so much out there too that you have to be wary of. And one of the reasons why we're here is to kind of sort through all that noise and get you the best, most accurate local forecast.
Yeah. And television itself is different. I remember when HD became a big deal, when the screens got wider and they told you, you're going to have to wear different makeup because they're going to see everything. They're going to see all your pores and blemishes. And I'm like,
a fun advancement.
Right.
Yeah.
And also we can track storms live on air. We weren't always able to do that.
Nope.
I remember having to update all my maps whenever the top of the hour observations came in. It was so much slower.
The computers are so different now.
The speed at which we can get that information out. And now video. Think about before, we've got cameras at different networks of cameras. We've got viewers. We've got people with phones everywhere.
Love that.
So we're seeing so much more in the skies than we did even 20 years ago.
In real time, and virtually real time in many cases. So the technology is so much different. The forecasting, though, remains pretty much the same. We look for the same parameters. You know, we're looking at temperature, wind, humidity, and pressure. That hasn't changed in hundreds of years, really, since weather forecasting started. So the technology helps us get more refined and better data so that we can get more accurate forecasts and longer range. We can see now, 2 weeks or more out?
And that's amazing.
It's incredible. To see something maybe a week or two ahead of time is really fascinating.
Yeah. And then fine tune that as we get closer, for sure.
But we appreciate all of the viewership, of course, through those 70 years, trusting us as your weather source for information, and also the experts right here with me. So 70 years, it almost feels like it flew by a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, sometimes.
All right, thank you, Jason, Megan, and Karen. Some great insight there. Now, this is an event that many people living here in Western North Carolina will never forget, and that's the blizzard of '93. Here's a look at the impact the storm of the century had right here in the mountains.
This is a News 13 weather bulletin, and this is what you're waking up to this morning, a monstrous winter storm.
Just over 30 years ago, a winter blast like no other paralyzed the mountains.
This storm has produced record low barometric pressure. It has produced record high winds along the Gulf and the Atlantic coast.
It was like a snow hurricane snow. It had that speed.
You couldn't get all the snow off the parking lots or the roads into the shelters. You couldn't get a shelter staff into the shelters. And it was just really, whatever could go wrong went wrong.
Trees fell.
Hundreds upon hundreds of trees are down here.
Grocery stores empty.
The whole town is out of water.
Water had to be trucked in.
We don't have any heat, any hot water.
Some emergency dispatchers relied on lanterns with power out and temperatures falling.
Only about 50% of the people here have phone service.
Let's go now to Gary Stevenson with the latest. Gary, quite the winter storm system working up out there.
Brenda, this will be one to remember and probably go down in the record books.
The blizzard of '93 did go down in the record books. 18 inches of snow fell at the Asheville Regional Airport in just a 48-hour period spanning March 12th and 13th. That had never happened previously, and it hasn't happened since.
For more than 30 years, Asheville held a downtown festival every summer known as Bele Chere. Now, the festival grew to become one of the largest in the Southeast. Here's retired News 13 reporter Cheryl Barber.
The Bele Chere we know today is a different world from the handful of vendors and street performances 3 decades ago.
We're looking at the early posters. The first, the second, the third.
Bele Chere organizer Robin Daniel directed the first 10 Bele Chere festivals, all aimed at encouraging people to visit the downtown's 3-day street party.
I like this one because it has street dance. That's the second one.
She says only the musicians were paid in 1979.
This poster was a contribution by Price McNabb. That year, almost everything that was part of Bele Chere was a contribution.
Her pictures show street musicians working in a district lined with vacant stores as economics and shopping center development lured businesses away from downtown. She says it was Bele Chere that led the struggle to keep the city center alive.
I know they've come from other counties, from other states, because they came here for that. They came and spent the weekend and went away and came back again. There were musicians who did that. Some of our own musicians have stayed here because of it.
You clearly had just, in a lot of ways, a ghost town down here, and it's a lot of buildings boarded up.
Former city planner and lawmaker Steve Metcalf says most of Asheville's stores had left to become anchor stores at the malls. He credits Bele Chere with encouraging people to come downtown and then live and work downtown.
If you could get people downtown to enjoy the architecture, enjoy the feel of the streets, enjoy some urban living, that people would come back, and I think they clearly have.
And as you can imagine, News 13 was a big part of Bele Chere each year. We did live broadcasts and reports every year from the Downtown Festival. Always a good time. Western North Carolina knows how to roll out the red carpet for Hollywood. We're putting some notable films with mountain roots in focus. Welcome back. Over the last 70 years, we've witnessed the mountains host blockbuster films, from Forrest Gump to The Hunger Games to Dirty Dancing. Here's take one of this Hollywood snapshot with News 13's Katie Killen. And of course, we hope you'll give it 2 thumbs up.
Lights, camera, and tons of movie action over the years here in Western North Carolina. From The Last of the Mohegans to 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, the mountains have set the scene for Oscar-worthy films.
Movies, I think, bring joy and excitement.
Most recently, we've seen filming for the comedy Summer Camp.
Welcome to our first ever camp reunion.
Diane Keaton, Kathy Bates, and Eugene Levy all landing at Camp Pinnacle in Hendersonville.
You're a little down on romance.
I am not down on romance.
Romance hardly lost at Biltmore Estate. Production for the Hallmark Channel's A Biltmore Christmas happening in early 2023, and we were there for it all. The mansion, a popular movie backdrop for decades. Going back to the early 2000s and 1990s, the likes of Hannibal, Patch Adams, and Richie Rich. And who can forget the iconic film Dirty Dancing, Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey showing off their moves in Lake Lore. To this day, the Dirty Dancing Festival giving people the time of their life.
Thank you, Katie. And taking you way back, one of the earliest movies shot in Asheville was The Conquest of Canaan. You'll have to look that one up, folks. That was a silent drama released in 1921, 103 years ago. In our next half hour, the famous and infamous faces making news in Western North Carolina, from Eric Rudolph's capture to the Reverend Billy Graham, his crusades captivating millions around the world. And behind the big day, or the big story of the day, are the journalists, of course, working to earn and keep your trust over the last 70 years. Darcel Grimes, Tammy Watford, Jay Siltzer, decades of experience, what it means to work for you. That's next. Over the last 70 years, it's been our mission and duty to cover the famous and infamous here in Western North Carolina. In some cases, we broke news that touched the rest of the country. We worked around the clock, relying on our deep connections here in Western North Carolina to bring you the biggest stories first. And as News 13's Katie Killen shows us, one prime example is the manhunt and the capture of the Olympic Park bomber, Eric Rudolph.
It looks almost like a block party in downtown Murphy as smiling people gather to celebrate the capture of Eric Robert Rudolph.
That was former morning anchor Jay Siltzer breaking the news to viewers here in Western North Carolina and beyond. The year, 2003. A rookie police officer in Murphy, Jeff Postel, finding Rudolph rummaging through a dumpster behind a Save-A-Lot. So how did Jay bust the story wide open?
It was a Saturday morning, and my phone rang, and it was Jay. And he said, I got news. They found Eric Rudolph. The reason why we got that was because Jay knew his sources and knew people.
Rudolph, the bomb-making terrorist who killed 2 people, was one of America's most wanted fugitives. He spent years hiding here in the mountains.
There's no telling how many times we've been right here, right on top of him, and
not known.
That was Jeff Postel showing News 13 where he caught the fugitive. Eric Rudolph, to this day, is serving 4 life sentences.
Around mid-afternoon, investigators began cordoning off a portion of Highway 49 near John D. Long Lake, the place where Susan Smith claimed a carjacker forced her out of her car and drove off with her little boys.
We have not turned up the car as of yet. We have not turned up the suspect as of yet, and we have not had a confirmed sighting on the children having been dropped off anywhere. We haven't recovered them.
As late as yesterday morning, Susan Smith was on national TV pleading for her children's return.
In California, you could believe it, but not in Union.
She was stopped at this red light when the suspect, armed with a handgun, jumped in the passenger side of the car and ordered her to shut up and drive. A composite picture of the suspect is already up in storefront windows.
The hardest part is not knowing, just not knowing.
Several hours after that interview, she confessed. She told police she killed her sons, 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex. She directed police to the bottom of the lake where they recovered her Mazda protege. The little boys were in the back.
People ask you where you're from, and you say, well, I'm from Union, South Carolina. Are you from where that girl killed her kids?
You want to come tell her something?
You have a pet?
Tell her.
A stick? Yeah, come go with me, thank you.
Him and my other 2 are the reason that I live and breathe. I would be bored without them. Like, they're my life. They give meaning to life. Good job. Oh, that was great. Come over here and get some more. Like you have a purpose.
It's a town where you know everybody, so that's Union.
Like any other small town, hustle bustle, people working, trying to going to and fro and trying to make a living, and just about everybody in town know each other. You know somebody that know this person and that person. Just a small town, small southern town.
All right, that was just a short clip from the News 13 documentary Unthinkable. The Susan Smith story makes you want to keep watching, doesn't it? Smith, the mother, convicted of drowning her 2 kids, remains locked up in a South Carolina prison. Her parole denied back in November. Watch every twist and turn with this 30-year-old case. You can click on the QR code there on your screen, and that'll take you to the WLOS YouTube page. And once you're there, you can watch the hour-long documentary, as well as the interviews with her former husband, David Smith, and others involved in the case. And that documentary has, at last count, over 620,000 views since its release back in November. And we know the way to get your news is always changing. We're here to make sure you can find the content you need in the ways that you want it. In 70 years of covering Western North Carolina, WLOS has had a front row seat to one of the world's most famous Christian evangelists. The Reverend Billy Graham was born in Charlotte and raised in Montreat. Reverend Graham became well known for his televised crusades.
Every person here tonight can have everlasting life.
We dug into the News 13 archive for this video of Reverend Graham speaking at one of his crusades in Asheville way back in 1977. He preached around the world to more than 210 million people in 185 countries and territories. Reverend Graham died at his home in Montreat back in 2018 at the age of 99.
1954 to 2024, there's been a transformation of these mountains in the 70 years that we've been on the air. News 13's Gracie Matisse takes us through that timeline.
Oh, first, let's track Asheville's population growth. The 1950 census put Asheville at around 52,000 people. The 2020 census almost doubled that at around 94,000. Now, fast forward 7 years from 1954, flights began operating out of the Asheville Regional Airport in 1961. 10 years after that comes the Asheville Mall. Then in 1991, the Asheville Citizen and the Asheville Times merge to become the Asheville Citizen Times. In 2000, Asheville celebrates the new millennium. Then a few years later, in 2004, the remnants of Hurricanes Francis and Ivan caused major flooding, putting low-lying areas like Biltmore Village under feet of water. Bele Chere was a massive music and arts street festival, bringing in some 350,000 people. It ended its run in 2013 when City Council voted to end the celebration to help save money. Asheville made national headlines in 2020 when City Council pledged to fund reparations initiative for African American residents and neighborhoods. And that brings us to 2024, a contract awarded for the long-awaited I-26 connector project, construction going full steam ahead on a new airport terminal, and the city's affordable housing plan coming into focus. WLOS taking you through it all for 70 years. And you can bet we'll be here on all platforms, keeping you informed every step of the way. In studio, Gracie Matisse, News 13.
Thank you, Gracie. Darcel Grimes, Jay Siltzer, Bill Norwood, Stan Pamphilus. How these familiar names became people you trusted for decades. Icons of News 13, next.
On January 12, 1981, Dynasty premiered.
No one gave you permission to come into this house. Oh, I don't need permission, Crystal.
Next on News 13 at 6. And Darcel had shoulder pads of her own on the set of WLOS.
This is News 13 at 6.
After getting her start in Mississippi, the D.C. native moved to the mountains and soon became a household name.
I always dreamed of being a journalist from the time I was in what's middle school now was junior high school then. I wanted to be a reporter. And nobody listened to me. Everybody thought it was just a kid and she was going to change her mind, and I would run home and watch the news and say, I'm going to be just like that. And it's been more than I expected. Because you see people on television and you think they're just there. When actually there's a lot more that goes into it than just sitting on the desk. I've been fortunate to live my dream.
From reporting on a prince.
As you can see now, the prince is getting out of his limousine.
To the trip of a lifetime.
There's no doubt that here by the sea, Christ walked, preached, and performed miracles.
Oh gosh, it was a highlight of my career. It was magical.
And she must have found these Blue Ridge Mountains magical too, calling Western North Carolina home.
I feel honored that people of Western North Carolina have invited me into their homes. They're just warm and loving and caring. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have them.
Okay, we know Darcel is enjoying life in retirement these days. Her dedication and newsroom leadership did not go unnoticed. Now, in September, Darcel was one of 2 local residents to receive the Order of the Longleaf Pine right here in Asheville. Governor-elect Josh Stein was on hand there at the YMI Cultural Center. He presented Darcel with that award on behalf of Governor Roy Cooper. The Order of the Longleaf Pine is awarded by North Carolina's governors to people who make significant contributions to their communities and to the state. Well deserved. From Darcel to a present-day mainstay here at News 13, here's Holly Hedrick reflecting on Tammy Watford and her more than 3 decades of service to you.
Last year, Tammy Watford celebrated her 30th anniversary with WLOS.
Heavy snow caused a roof collapse at Asheville's Innsbrook Mall this afternoon.
She first sat at the station's anchor desk in the 1990s, joining former anchor Frank Crocker.
When I think of Tammy, I think of just spontaneity. It's just such an in-the-moment person.
I have dry feet, I have dry feet.
What does the elk say? Do you know?
They bugle, like,
When you're anchoring a newscast and you've got somebody out there with you, ad-libbing, so much of it can get really canned. And with Tammy, it never was.
I feel much better now.
Former News 13 sports director Stan Pamphilis, also remembering good times with Tammy.
You know, she had that long flowing hair when she first got there. And so they decided to do this campaign. It was the Tammy Watford Hair Club, where all the male anchors, they put her hair on our head. For me, it was great. For the other guys, I wasn't so sure.
Stan emphasizing that Tammy is a joy to work with.
She was real nice. She was always smiling, in a good mood. And she was really good at her job, which made it even better.
That hard work recognized in 2018 with the Silver Circle Award, reserved for dedicated broadcasters in the industry for at least 25 years.
Hurricane Michael is now officially the
former News 13 anchor Darcel Grimes, remembering their time together on the 5 o'clock newscast, a major first for our area.
I think we probably broke a barrier in this market, 2 females anchoring.
Grimes saying Tammy held things together, even during some of the toughest shows.
Now, this is when things were, like the tape's not rolling, we're going to black. We don't know what story's coming next. And she go, whoa. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm keeping us from going over the cliff.
All while remembering not to take things too seriously.
I will never forget Tammy doing Elvis. And she can do a mean jailhouse rock.
She gets people in a better mood. She makes them a better person. And I feel like I'm a better person for Tammy Watford.
All right. For decades, Jay Siltzer was part of the fabric of this News 13 morning team. And part of what made Jay so special to us and to so many of you is the humanity he showed you each day. From moments of joy to coping with unimaginable losses. He spoke with Tammy for a candid conversation before his last day.
People have been, to me, incredibly kind, especially with the death of my wife and son, both from cancer. And, there's no way to ever repay that. And the only thing I can do is just say, thank you for putting your trust in me all these years. And for sticking with us and sticking with me through some rough times, because, those prayers, those cards, those calls, they kept me going when I couldn't keep myself going.
Jay signed off from the mornings at News 13 in May of 2023. He's keeping very busy working at Immaculate Conception Catholic Church there in Hendersonville. Relics of the past coming to light. We'll show you the piece of history uncovered in Asheville and the special ties to News 13. All right, there's a good chance that you've seen this video with more than 48 million views. It's the most viewed video on the WLOS News 13 YouTube page from 11 years ago, an emotional reunion at Irwin High School. Petty Officer Dale Williams, as you saw there, made a surprise visit to his daughter, a cheerleader at the time. He'd been stationed at Guantanamo Bay. His visit was short, only a day, but they certainly made the most of it. And believe it or not, you, the viewers, contributed to the station's 70th birthday celebrations, between your well wishes to historic mementos and so much more. So we're going to the Lost and Found room with an autographed card from WLOS TV's children's show host, Bill Norwood. There he is. Jesse Cohen of Asheville came across the postcard-sized publicity photo of Mr. Bill with an inscription reading, "To Bev, Mr. Bill." Jesse likes to scavenge homes under demolition for collectibles, and he does not know who Bev is, but he remembers he found that card at a teardown home on Charlotte Street.
there was a box of discarded papers, and so I went through that and found this very unique item, and I love it because I remember watching this show as a child.
Mr. Bill and Friends ran on WLOS for 29 years, from 1959 to 1988. 70 years, that's quite a legacy, but how will we evolve in the years to come? Sometime this winter, WLOS will begin broadcasting from Pinnacle Mountain. That means that we're moving our transmitter site from Mount Pisgah to Pinnacle Mountain. Our news site gives us the ability to broadcast in next-gen TV, providing our viewers the improved audio and video experience of next-generation broadcasting. The Pisgah Tower has been in service for decades now. Here's Tammy Watford with the view from the mountaintop at a massive piece of station history.
It has been a crucial piece of News 13 technology that doubles as a hiking destination.
The technicians were staring into the face of a big challenge. The laborious task of constructing a tower on Mount Pisgah began in the spring of 1954.
Everything that is on the mountain now either went up by the cable car or was flown in by helicopter.
Former News 13 forecaster Bob Caldwell taking a ride on that cable car during one of his outdoors segments.
Over the years, folks have asked me many times how our technical people, our engineers, actually got to the top of Mount Pisgah. Well, during extremely cold and snowy weather, at times they've actually had to crawl up the backside of the mountain. But we're going up on a tram.
That tram taking WLOS employees to the top of Mount Pisgah at nearly 6,000 feet above sea level. Then in 2010, our photographers captured the video of a helicopter upgrading an antenna on the tower.
It's just amazing to me that there are guys that will actually climb to the top of a tower like that and put their lives on the line just to, basically just to make sure people can see television.
All of that to bring
WLOS Asheville, Greenville, Spartanburg
to TVs across the mountains for 70 years.
Thank you, Tammy. So what's next for WLOS News 13? Well, elements of the future are already here. Documentaries like the one about the Susan Smith case, A Good Kid, the murder mystery of Zeb Quinn, and Deadlier Than Fire. Beyond that, podcasts like AnchorMOMS, helpful advice, insight for all of you mothers juggling all of that life throws your way. And whether you tune in, log on, check our push alerts, or stream us on the go, you can count on WLOS to be here for you, here today, here tomorrow, and hopefully for the next 70 years to come. I'm Patrick Hutchin. So long.